What was your first impressions of Vince McMahon?
Senior or junior?
This would be junior.
I saw an old tape where he was a commentator. Boy, it was bad. Oh man, it was bad. First impression that we can get a bead on would be just a story I told you with Schultz and Orndorff. So we're in a bar in St. Louis, and McMahon's there, and I said, "I want to talk to you. Please, please don't." I talk. I was raised in a dressing room, so I don't mean to say that I said, "Hey Vince, what the fuck are you doing?" I wasn't that ignorant or that brave. I just simply said, "Vince, there's so many guys, man, and everybody is going on TV, and the way they're trying to get over, they're killing each other. Boom, boom. They got to pay for that." I said, "You give me a bow tie and a mic stand, 5 weeks. If I don't get the job done, I'll get out." And the next TV, there was a Piper's Pit, the one that we know. And so that was the first kind of one-to-one business with Vince McMahon Jr., and he was very much a Roddy Piper fan at that time. And the chemistry is good between those two guys on a working level. Both their guys' ego are just out of this world. Both Piper's and McMahon's ego at that time was just ridiculous. But at the same time, as he was taking care of me, it's WrestleMania, and I refused to take a dive. Or settle the score, refused to take a dive.
I'm going to ask you about that too.
Yeah, and so what McMahon does, just so you know, to give you two sides of this junior at where we're at now, and I can bring you up as we go. As he's my buddy and doing all this, all of a sudden I'm in a warehouse, and I got to make it up 4 weeks before WrestleMania, and I'm the last guy that hasn't signed a contract. I'm saying, I don't sign no contract, because I just got jerked around. And all of a sudden, he's got there, and he gets his briefcase, where it's on 2 wooden boxes, goes, sign, he says, "I got it, oh, you got it, otherwise I can't do this WrestleMania thing." And I said to him, "You cocksucker." And he laughed, and So, on one side, he was for me, but on the other side, he owned me all of a sudden, but hadn't done any of the work. If you want me to leave it there, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you later, how did your perception of Vince change over the years? But I'll ask you that later.
Yes, sir. The thing that McMahon was doing that only a couple of us was catching on to was McMahon took, if it was Hogan versus Piper on the marquee, he just quietly put the WWF. And of course, those people at that time came to see Hogan Piper, but as they trained him, it was the WWF coming to town. And what that enabled him to do was, he wanted to get rid of the guys that cost that much money, or the ones that would buck back, and get a control. And eventually he just got the WWF is coming, no particular one name. And now he pays them what he pays them. It's a promoter's business, I guess.
We were basically talking about how Vince changed over time, and you were telling us about WrestleMania 2 and...
Yeah, so WrestleMania 3, as I went and did They Live, and that's where I got the Vince saying Hogan and McMahon are the only true blue WWFers. And this is where Vince really took a anti-Roddy side. There's one incident with Vince. I sent him a baseball bat in an oak cabinet, and it had a mirror on the back of it and 2 brass things and a Louisville slugger and a mirror and a hammer to break the glass, and it had a plaque. It's still in his office. It says "First come, first serve." And I told him, I says, Vince, you got more money than I do, so if you fuck me on payday, I'm gonna beat you to death with a bat. And then I sent it to him. Well, he put that up in his office, and about a year and a half ago, in a dispute, he wrote down "First come, first serve." It's been 20 years. So, just in giving you that kind of a light, Vince would always tell me, no man can be an island unto his own. Well, no, I don't agree with you, Vince. I'm not going to let you as Vince was towards the end of trying to get a relationship. He brought my wife to New York, put her in a limousine with a real estate agent, said, any house that you want if you let Rod live on the East Coast. My wife said, after Kevin, we had dinner with Linda and Vince that night. My wife said, I'm sorry, my kids wouldn't stand a chance here. Kitty, it's a free house. So I had to buy a ranch in Oregon. That's when Vince McMahon, having the success that each one was having in each pay-per-view and becoming, you know, and living it and breathing it, where he got in the height of the Peter principle of his own ignorance, but it's smart. What everybody didn't know, Vince didn't know nothing about wrestling. It was Pat doing the wrestling. One time I'm in Hershey and Pat isn't around and I'm talking to Vince on the phone and he's trying to lay something out. It is so ass backwards. I did Philadelphia that night. I changed around and that's when I realized what this guy was doing and what front. Then the next thing he did was when Jesse sued him, Jesse Ventura sued him, everybody in their check, it said something like Jesse Ventura won a lawsuit for $957,000, da-da-da-da. What that meant was, yeah, he won it. Why don't you try, asshole? Because I'll eat. Yeah, what of it? We're not going to. So we're not going to guard it as a secret, because then you're thinking you got power. So they're psychology-wise, they're playing this game now. Vince is starting to get a little more on the evil side in controlling people, get his jollies on controlling people. I'll give you an example of myself where Patterson hates me, and I did a run and I got home to Portland and I looked in the sheet and I was booked in Portland. I had 3 days off. Oh, thank you, God. And the night before I looked, 2 Portlands were running, Portland, Oregon and Portland, Maine. They booked me in Portland, Maine, and they did it just to fuck with me. And all the way to Portland, Maine. You could imagine what a guy would be thinking. And now you're jacking with a guy here. Careful. Now he's bringing Elizabeth via Randy and a little more liberty here and not quite as much respect here. And then now I'm away from McMahon. And as McMahon grows into this, I see a guy that's just been put on the, as I bring you up to date here, a guy been put on the $1 billion list, yet he allows Rikishi to shove his face in his bum in his daughter's face, and he has his son slap his mother while he pulls his pants down and has someone kiss his ass. Wait a second now, Rod, you know, if your family needed something, there's nothing I wouldn't do to give my family. No, he's got $1 billion. He's sick. He is all consumed. Then the next thing I hear, he's getting in the ring. He's always been a frustrated wrestler. One time, Vince McMahon had a meeting with me, and he came in a black leather jacket, blue jeans, and cowboy boots, and the blue jeans had to be let out. Looked like he just come from a flood. I laughed so hard, I never seen him in it again. He was back in a suit. But he was reaching out to me. I was such an asshole at the time, and so negative promoter that I couldn't see the trees for the forest. But then Vince got vicious when we went to the WCW. So the bottom line for Vince was, well, I really don't want to hire you, but don't go against me. When he got vicious like that and all consuming, and it's where he's at now. You know, he just was the main event in WrestleMania. You know, so he owns the territory and takes the main event. You know, I think that there's a man that has sacrificed absolutely everything that could possibly be dear to you for the prestige of being able to be recognized on the street. I can't think of another reason you'd let some 320-pound man sit on your daughter. It wouldn't work in miles.
What actually led you to leave? The final time. From the different things that I had done,
you know, things were getting wilder and wilder and crazier. And they wanted me. They didn't want me in the mix there. I wasn't a nice fella. And it got to where I was with Rob Taub, an Emmy Award-winning writer. We were doing this piece of business, and Rob says, "Where's Roddy's dressing room?" "Oh, he doesn't get one. Pat doesn't like him." Okay. About that time, it was, I went home, and there was a lot of friction, and that's when Vince sent me a camera. He said, "Listen, why don't you just shoot a show from home?" I said, "I'll call it The Bottom Line." I just took it anywhere and did that. And then that show went, and when I was actually released, Vince didn't call me himself. He had JJ call me. And JJ says to me, the show got dropped, and, there's not a spot. And I don't know what JJ expected. He's a good friend of mine. Cool. I says, "Now you realize my name's Roddy Piper, and it is my name." I said, "Yeah, hey, listen, see you later, JJ, bye." And I think Vince thought it would startle me, being that about a little bit before that, walking down the hall, there's a closet, go in the closet, he looks at me and he says, "The WWF doesn't need Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper doesn't need the WWF. Does that clean everything up, and can I go back now?" And that's exactly how it was. So he was looking to, he didn't want to be around me anymore, because I would call him, and he would call me too. Don't let me paint myself out as some kind of beast here. I wasn't. It just was the way it went.